welcome to episode 190 of the Blue Recluse. My name is Martin Larsen, and you're listening to the podcast about everything Blizzard. It's Sunday, May the 27th, 2018. And with me tonight, I have all the way from the land of Canada, Tom Knight.
What's it all about, eh? Yeah, I'm back. I took last week off, and I'm going to say, maybe it is me that brings the show down. Maybe it is, because I listened back to you and Michael talking about Blizzard games, and you know what? It actually sounded like you knew what you were talking about, and that is scary.
Damn straight, Michael.
We bring out the best in each other, that's what it is, and without constant interruptions about dead games like Hearthstone, we're able to get to the real meat and potatoes of the podcast. So,
what I do want to say is, though, you guys didn't know what Paz was. You're like, what is Paz? What is Paz? And I was screaming, going, I know. If I had only been on the show, I could have told you that it meant Pro Evolution Soccer. But why the hell were we talking about that? It's a Blizzard show. Come on, guys.
Exactly. And we have an action-packed show today with so many subjects that we needed to get some help. So we have TitansCreed, aka Pete, who just randomly jumped into a Discord channel and said hello, and we said, hey, join the show, won't you?
Thank you very much, guys. It's nice to be back. It's been a while.
It has. So since we have so much to talk about, let's not drag out the time and spend a lot of time in this pre-intro, because I guess we really want to, jump into the show, talk about all the stuff that we figured out that we want to talk about, and we're not trying to waste time by talking a lot in this pre-intro, because we need to hit that 1 hour mark, right, guys? We're not doing that, right?
No, we're not going to do that.
Okay. Let's start the show then.
Here I come. I said something elusive. Fire, stay a while and listen. Well then, you are not prepared. This better be good. Existence is mysterious.
Loud and clear. Hello there.
Greetings, traveler. And welcome to the Blue Recluse.
So, yeah, not too much going on in the Blizzard world of news. I guess it's that time before Gamescom and that time before, the new expansion hits. We're basically just waiting for all the good stuff to happening right now. So
I have some news.
You have some news, all right.
Yeah.
Here we go.
I have a friend that applied for a job at Blizzard, and they got it.
Ooh.
Is that same friend one of my friends?
Yeah, same friend as your friend.
So
cool. we have an insider. We have finally planted a mole inside Blizzard HQ. So the Blue Recluse is just about to get way more interesting, because we're going to have all the insider information. We're going to find out what Jeff eats on his break. We're going to find out that Chris Mattson is actually still alive and working inside Blizzard. We're going to find all the dirty secrets.
I heard that he lives inside the statue.
he is the statue. What it is.
That's his new job. He's just standing there relaxed outside of a Blizzard HQ.
All shiny.
Living the dream.
And stuff.
Living the dream.
Well, but anyway, we're waiting for some proper news, and
we're just gonna sit here and wait.
We're just going to sit here, wait for the next hour until something finally happens. But while we do that, why not talk about like social interactions in gaming and things like that? Because I mean, Pete, you basically did that right now, not in gaming, but you just jumped into our voice comm and were hijacked for this all of a sudden. How does that feel?
I mean, it's all good. I like to talk, as we all know. I have elongated this podcast, particularly in the past, by just having the ability to talk nonsense.
Pete, we do prefer it if you don't use big words like that, because we don't know what they mean.
Elongated. You're bringing up the class over here, and we don't appreciate that.
Damn. I'll try to be less political with my sentence structure. My bad. But no, it's good. I mean, I can't remember how long I've been talking to you guys. I know it's been at least since the beginning of Warlords of Draenor. I think you guys came and said hi when I was doing the 24-hour stream, and I know we've been talking since before then. But yeah, I mean, now that Discord's been a thing, it's easier to bring people together, and especially with, I don't know, the new social structure that the Blizzard are going to implement into WoW could be a lot easier, because the groups that we're able to use to chat with in the actual Blizzard client itself are going to be in game, which is going to make life pretty easy, I'd imagine, especially on launch day and any busy days where people are on.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting on launch day when all the servers go down, right?
Well, I don't know. The last two expansions, they've not been too bad.
No.
I mean, they've definitely come miles better from what TBC and Wrath, at least for launch time.
And Diablo 3.
What, we don't speak of Diablo 3.
I do
Don't bring that up.
occasionally.
I think it's pretty amazing though, because when I started playing World of Warcraft, and just there was no voice chat in the game, obviously, and you had to have like an external program like Ventrilo or TeamSpeak, and not many people had that, especially in the first kind of year. I don't really remember hearing about too many people having that, and that was almost like a sub-join your guild. It's like, oh yeah, we have this server, we can do voice chat. That's great. But I just remember being like a 16-year-old and grouping up with a bunch of people that actually talking to people seemed a bit scary. And these days I would have no issues just jumping on a channel and talking to random people. But it's come a long way.
It sure has. I'm just trying to think back. I can't really remember how and what it started. I mean, it's probably because of the guild and we wanted to raid or something like that. But I mean, back then we were I was at least only online on some of those programs when we were raiding, and not that much outside of it. Where these days, I mean, our guild's Discord is just pretty much someone online every day at every time of the hour, just doing that thing.
And I was just some kid with the headphones plugged into his PlayStation yelling on Call of Duty at that time. So now I am curious, Marty, you've done beta stuff. Have you tried out the voice chat at all while in beta?
Actually, no, I haven't. I have noticed actually when I'm into a dungeon that the voice chat pops up and asks me if I want to join. And I think the very first time I did join it, but nobody else was on there, so it was kind of like just me talking to myself. So no, I haven't had the pleasure of actually talking to other people in the game.
I feel like that's how it's going to go. Is for the majority, like nobody's gonna really join the chat, and the reason my assumption is based off of Heroes of the Storm, which recently added in voice chat as well. And it seemed like in the beginning I was getting matches and people were chatting and just kind of having a good time. But every time I've jumped in recently, nobody, even if it says they joined the chat, they are not chatting. Maybe they're listening, but they're not talking at all. So,
I think that comes from a point that not everybody still likes to talk over voice comms, because they've got that illusion that they might be too young, or they don't want to come across as anything. And the minute anybody speaks up, then you'll have not so much the more competent players, but the more angry players that will call them out as a noob or whatever. And that's always something that dashes somebody's confidence. But you'll have people that will jump on and they'll try to be knowledgeable. And I think it's definitely going to be there for more of the pickup groups, and it'll be interesting to see how it works with the custom group finder when something lasts longer than 5 minutes. So not exactly now where you can jump into an invasion point and it's done in 5 minutes, but maybe say like Alduar time walking and stuff like that, where you don't want to invite 25 randoms into your Discord, your TeamSpeak, or whatever you use. It'll be interesting.
It would have been amazing to have for time walking, because I was just sitting there trying to type out the tactics, because I was one of the only ones who actually remembered them in the group I was joining in. So it would have been amazing to have like at least majority of the people in some kind of voice chat, so I could just tell them what to do. But I just wanted to quickly add something to what TitansCreed said, because I don't know how it is in the US, but I know at least in the EU as well, we have a lot of different countries, and on the servers, you usually, you have different languages, so people will expect you to speak English on the English servers, and I think a lot of other countries who has English as the second language, they will also not feel maybe uncomfortable speaking because I know a lot of people feel like they have to be perfect in English before they can actually talk on voice comms like those. So I think that's another issue that we over here have, at least.
I work with Marty every week, so if for some reason you feel like your accent is too strong, jump in there. I'm very skilled in deciphering. Okay, I could work for the FBI or something now because I've been deciphering each and every week for quite a while now. So yeah, I encourage everybody, if you want to chat, get in there and chat. I do it. I always start it off with like a good evening or how's everybody doing or something like that, and I am met with silence.
So formal, Michael. Good evening.
I try to set it off. I try to set it off on a positive note. You know, just let people know, hey, I'm here. I'm willing to chat. Let's have a good time.
Your pipe.
My pipe and my robe.
I just had an idea for an awesome kind of, because I know Michael was talking last week about kind of reaching out to people and forming groups, and this is kind of where I got the idea for talking about kind of the social aspect of the video games, because it's everywhere and just how much it's grown and how connective everything is now. But imagine if when you joined a party and you joined the chat channel, but you could have like this voice anonymizer that matched your character race. So if you were playing like an orc, you like just spoke and it came out like and like you were a gnome, or just masked your voice completely, so you would be in character. That way, if like a gnome started insulting you, I don't think it would hurt as much. I don't think you would feel the full brunt of the insult. Like
I don't think I'd be able to find my kick button fast enough.
If a gnome was calling me a noob, I'd be like, it's okay, buddy, it's okay. It'd be great. It'd be great, and you could role play. I mean, imagine the role playing aspect of this as well.
That would be really cool. No, I'm not. Yeah, that's
Goldshire will be a whole new.
Oh God!
I might just jump in that chat to listen. I just like to watch sometimes.
So that's just
that took a different turn. I'm sorry. It's Marty's fault. He brought up Goldshire.
We really need to have show notes going forward.
I think I'll always
Recluse off script.
After dark. Except
just beware of the bushes around Goldshire, because you never know where Michael might be.
I know, so we don't have show notes, but we are talking about World of Warcraft and it was brought up a bit. I actually got to do Ulduar for the first time.
How did you find it?
First of all, it's so hard sometimes to find your way around certain things. I don't get how anybody finds their way anywhere with teleporters going here and there, and you need to go over here before you go over there.
It's called experience, and 8+ years of grinding for Mimiron's head is what that's called.
But I mean, the fights were pretty interesting. I liked it. They seemed pretty varied. There was a lot of different things going on. I was told not to push the big red button, and I was so tempted to push it. I wanted to push it. I did not.
So my question was, did you actually do any of the hard modes in Ulduar?
I think we accidentally, because somebody misremembered the Iron Console. They misremembered exactly the order between the bosses, so I think we left the big guy for last. Ooh. And we kind of got smashed. And then we left that chamber. Everyone's like, I remember this. This was optional. We can leave this guy. So we left him and went ahead, but we did that one. But otherwise, we did not try the hard modes, mainly because it wasn't an all guild run. It was some guildies, and then we pulled some people from the group finder. If it was all the guilds on their mains, maybe, but people were in there with alts and stuff like that. So I found it fun.
It doesn't really matter if you bring your main on alt, because it's scaled. I mean, yeah, of course it you still need to be able to play that alt class, but yeah.
But I found it a lot of fun. Yogg-Saron was definitely something that I was not used to. I kept misclicking on the portals, and I wasn't able to get out in time, so I kept dying in a whirlpool of death because he got in the way. His avatar got in the way of the portal, so I couldn't click it in time.
Yes, the brain room, always fun.
Yes.
I mean, it brings up an interesting point, because raid mechanics have changed so much in what 10? Is it 10 years since Wrath now?
Yeah.
Cataclysm was 8 years, 10 years, yeah. Because I mean, Wrath was the one where it really was how much shit can we put on the floor, and experimenting with all the different raid mechanics. But now, nearly every fight is so varied in a raid scene. It's really interesting to more than likely to do time, because what's the other time walking raid we had? We had Black Temple, wasn't it?
Black
and that
Temple.
was literally just feels like DPS fights with the odd mechanic. And even then, time walking doesn't scale that to the appropriate point where it's undoable now.
The true challenge in Black Temple is walking from point to point without getting so bored that you just don't want to leave, because it seemed to take forever to go anywhere in Black Temple.
Yeah.
See, Pete, you talk about how mechanics have evolved, and I totally agree. But remember when there was the anniversary event and they brought back Molten Core, and it seemed to take 5 hours to do Molten Core, even though it's supposed to be so easy.
It's because the mages didn't decurse.
I went in 2 whole. We took 2 whole guilds to go do Molten Core when they brought that back for the anniversary, and it still took us 4 to 5 hours because what's the Naga that's in the same room as Baron-Geddon? That was the one that caught us the most. Everything else.
Charizard.
Yeah. The one where you. Charizard, yes. Charizard lurks in the realm of fire. But
I think we called her Shaz back in the day. So.
But here's an interesting question. Going forward, we might see, because it's going to be a little bit old god themed. What raid from Cataclysm would you like to see as a time walk in the next expansion?
From Cataclysm?
Yeah.
None of them.
Not Spinal Deathwing, not that one.
None of them.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Firelands maybe.
I'd
Oh,
like
yeah,
to see
Firelands.
yeah.
I like Firelands.
Firelands would be good, actually. Yeah, no, that's not. I was
Good
going to
call.
say Bastion of Twilight because what's
I
it face
hated
at the end?
But then again, I really hate. Well, hate is a strong word. I really weren't too much into the whole Cataclysm in overall, and
It seems like every week Marty gets a chance to complain about Cataclysm recently.
Yeah.
What is this? Don't say the C word.
I mean, it's the next best expansion after Warlords, right? No, I mean, I really didn't like the rating overall in Cataclysm. I think Firelands was the highlight of Cataclysm, and back then I weren't really a big fan of it, but I think it has actually grown on me afterwards. So I think it could be good, pretty good fun to go back and revisit it as a time walking dungeon, because I wasn't too keen on Ulduar back in the days either, but actually when I did the time walking, I was like, hey, this is actually a pretty good raid. So I think you can warm to them afterwards, I think.
One thing that I really like
You can
is...
definitely warm up to Firelands. Sorry.
One thing that I like is listening to the people who were there back in the day playing these raids when they were current and new. I like listening to them chat about it, because they're like, hold on, I don't know how to do this, because back in the day we used to use a warlock to tank this or something like that, and now you can't do that because they are still the old raids, but it's with current mechanics. So it's interesting.
Because warlocks got deleted.
No.
Not yet.
But like threat works in a completely different way, so there are some strats that used to be used that can't really be used anymore. So I know for one, it took us a little bit, I think, in Black Temple to kind of come up with a slightly new strat just to kind of figure out which way we were going to go about defeating a boss. And I just find that type of stuff interesting. I'm a noob, don't mind me. Just enjoying different mechanics. How is the tank in a tank?
we all have different points where we've come to the game, and I think that's that wealth of knowledge that allows newer people to grow, essentially. And then they just turn around and go, back in my day.
So I can't wait
But
for
Lila
Classic.
was so much better.
I can't wait for Classic, because I have in my head that I would enjoy the way that threat worked back then. But I like the challenge.
3 Sunders. Not allowed to
Wait for
DPS till 3 Sunders.
No, so let me tell you where I'm coming from on this, is that when I was a tank, I enjoyed being out in the world and competing with the other tanks for threat to see if I could get more without using my taunt. And I think that, like, I like that kind of aspect where, like, I actually have to work to keep threat rather than I just have a button that I can push to gain all of it, or they're automatically all on me. It just adds an extra layer. And for a prop paladin, there's not a whole lot of things that you're clicking all at once. There's a lot of downtime. So I think that having that aspect to it might add a little bit more to the gameplay of that specific tank. Now, I know it's not the same in vanilla versus all that, but I would just like to kind of get a glimpse of it to see what it was like when people had to stop DPSing for a while so that they wouldn't grab aggro.
I think that's more fun for the. I think that's more fun for the tank than for the DPS.
That's why I was speaking from a tank perspective.
It's going to be very difficult when you judge Classic, because you're going to go into it, and contrary to normal Classic, there's actually going to be mods that are going to work for it, which was not so much a rarity, but there was very limited mod structure back in that day. So that'll be interesting, and if they're actually going to change the class at all to make it viable, because there was a lot of stuff that just was not viable in Classic.
I've watched the videos, and I actually plan on not using add-ons unless they're like maybe like nameplate changes and stuff like that. But actually, I would like to try to experience it as fresh as I can. So I want to go in no add-ons, just play it how it is, and
you can only use bot if you're gonna look something up.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to it personally. I'm going in with the intent of separating the two. This is not the World of Warcraft that I've been playing. This is a completely different game that has a similar skin to the one that I'm playing now. I love those. Don't ask that question. I actually didn't get in until right before the Legion pre-event.
Oh, okay.
So go ahead.
So if they did Classic servers, and like who knows what they'll do with them, because they obviously will expand on it at some point. But if they you'd look forward to that progression and everything they would come with it at that time, just to experience everything.
I don't know what, I think it was on Frasley's podcast that we were on, where I was talking about how I kind of like the idea of Classic because there is an ending to it. If it is the Classic server, I can set an ending and I can choose where I want to go. I know that the raids are the last thing. I don't have to, if I don't want to do the raids, then I can stop at a certain point. If I want to do the raids, I can keep going and get that grind on and just keep going for it. But I like the idea of Classic because I don't plan on stopping current day World of Warcraft unless BFA is the death of World of Warcraft.
No, Michael, you have to choose a side. You have to be Classic or current. That's it.
Nope, I'm not.
Is the red pill or the blue pill, Michael?
I'm snatching them both out of Morpheus's hand, and I'm downing them both and seeing what happens. I'm gonna exist in limbo somewhere.
Oh my god! I feel like that should be an extra scene where Neo just chows down on both.
Just an outtake, yeah.
That's Matrix 4.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
Just reboot the system.
But so, yeah, I don't. I'm on one hand, I'm sort of looking forward to Classic because what did we raid in Classic? We raided Molten Core, and then we did some of Blackwing Lair, right? And then there were the Sulgura as well, right?
So yeah, you had.
We never got around to doing Next Ramus.
No. So you had Molten Core, then you had Blackwing Lair. I think Zul'Gurub came in between. Then you had the Anchorage event.
Oh yeah,
and then they obviously released Moraldan and several other ones, which are like 15-player dungeons. And then you eventually had Nax Ramus, eventually at one point, and that was it. So you had a fair amount of content there.
Yeah, one thing I would like to try and go back and do is actually do all the raids as a level 60, because we never finished everything. I think it could be cool to go back and see if you can actually get through Next Ramus, because I think that was a pretty hard raid back then, right?
It was,
yeah. I think like such a small amount of the player base actually saw that raid that's one of the big reasons why they brought it back for Wrath.
Yeah.
As a fun little tidbit, you still couldn't clear Nax Ramus with like at least half the people you needed at max level in TBC. It was still that difficult. Like, I mean, you look at Nax in Wrath, and they didn't change much of the mechanics. They tuned some fine bits, obviously, but mechanics ideally were still the same. Just the numbers were different. But you go back to Classic Nax, and people still couldn't clear that at level 70 in
Holy
TBC gear.
crap! Wow.
Well, there were
it
stuff
was
like that
that
too. With
hard.
I think Kael'thas wasn't defeated from Burning Crusade until after like the next thing came out, and they were able to gear up more. So
Well, you've got to remember that TBC released with Serpent Shrine Cavern and VI open at the start of the expansion, but you still had the whole attunement line to get through. And I'm sure us long-time people remember that Bulls expanded bloody attunement line.
That was fun to do on your
It
third and
was.
fourth alt.
Yeah, I remember having to clear that to go and do Karazhan every week, and then you need an ult for Karazhan to help the others gear up. Yeah, that was fun. Yeah.
What was the attunement in Classic? Was it for Blackwing Lair, and you had to go to Blackrock Depths, and it was something. It was like Prison Break or something. You had to break
That
someone
was
out.
for
that was
Molten
Molten
Core.
Core, right?
Yeah,
Was
that
that
was
Oh, yeah,
Molten
Nyxia. There's also Nyxia.
Yeah.
Which they brought back for Wrath as well.
I remember I saw that quest when I was leveling up, and I was going back to old raids, and I saw that there was the attunement quest, and I haven't done it, and I was like, what is this? It's an attunement, and they're like, oh, you need this to enter Molten Core, but then I just clicked on take me to Molten Core, and I've never done that attunement because it just lets you go in right now.
The attunement from Molten Core was literally go to the entrance of Molten Core and pick up some
a
ore,
rock.
and now you're attuned. Good
That's
job.
it. But you had to go through Blackrock Depths to get there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh.
But I thought that was cool, giving a perspective of where the raid was within an instance. I always found that
Yeah.
like really cool because they did that in Upper Blackrock Spire as well. There was the entrance to Blackwing Lair, and it just gave a bit more of a perspective where a raid was. And I just thought, oh, it's like Inception. There's a dungeon within a dungeon.
I got lost in Blackrock Spire the other
Yeah,
day.
so good.
Actually, I was trying to go in there and figure out where the heck I was, and I accidentally exited the dungeon, and at the same time I entered a different dungeon from like Cataclysm, and I was just so confused. I was like, what in the world is going on here? Where am I?
One of the fun things is when you're investigating Spire on your own, you are that level to do it, and you jump down from I'll just take a shortcut, I'll jump down. You end up from upper in lower, right at the bottom with everything there, and you're like, well, now I'm lost.
Now there's different bosses here, and no, it's confusing. It used to be one dungeon, right? If I'm correct.
Upper
like it
and
all
lower.
used to be...
The Spire. Yeah.
Yeah, it was one dungeon, and then you decided if you wanted to go lower or upper. Yeah.
Oh my god, that's a
all
raid
of
night
it.
just to go through
All
it.
of it.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, one of the fun things when you went to Descent as well is because the entrance is in the real life version of the Nefarian's boss room in Lair as well. So, because that used to be an old instance gate in Lair, I think it was the exit portal after you beat Nefarian, but it just dumped you back in the upper spire, which I think you could see as well. It's wonky.
That's a good word.
Yeah, Blackrock Mountains always blow my mind with how many dungeons can fit inside of it. It's like freaking TARDIS, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it as well. Yeah.
We keep hollowing that place out, and just it'll be worse than fracking. That place will just one day.
But I think that's also some of the charm with those dungeons, were that you actually needed people to know the way around. I mean, today you just follow the path, and then you get guided through the dungeon, which is probably great for newer people who just jump into a new dungeon and haven't been there before. Because I can imagine if you have a full group of people never been in Blackrock Mountain dungeons, then they might have a hard time finding their way around.
I mean,
I agree with that. I loved in like Blackrock Depths because it was a quest line to get the like Shadow Forge key, which meant you could open gates and take shortcuts, and you actually had to work quite a bit to get that key. And kind of initially, to have somebody who had the key in your group, it was like, oh yes, wow, we can like take these different ways through the dungeon, and there was something really magical about that actually.
You needed a key for upper Blackrock Spire as well to open the door, actually. Yeah, that's right. So you had to do lower first and do a long sort of attunement to upper.
There was fun story as well, because Marauden was just as bad before LFG came in for the classic dungeons. And he just put you in the side. So something from way back in the classic days is that where in my very first guild, I made an event because it was at that level of leveling to go do Marauden, and nobody knew anything about it because it had just launched, and we were like, well, let's go do it, you know. And we spent about 2 hours because we got lost about 3 times trying to work out, because there was just the one entrance and you just went, well, go this way. And then, of course, that was back in the time where trash respawned in like 30 minutes. So you had to, yeah. Life was hard. Life was very hard.
Things just didn't stay dead. What?
Yeah.
Wasn't there like 2 ways into Martin? There was like a purple entrance and an orange.
The instance you just go into, but then there was the actual path that it takes around. You could choose the different ways you went in, but we didn't know this because we went in completely blind and then just ended up walking around for like 2 hours until we actually cleared it.
And then there was also a quest line to unlock, not to unlock, but you unlock a shortcut to the last part.
Yeah, like a scepter,
Yeah,
which
scepter,
created up.
Yeah.
Like
'Cause then
princess runs.
You got the portal at the waterfall, so you took that, you jumped off, and then you were in that last area.
Yeah.
That kind of made like a dungeon. It kind of expanded on it because you played through it. You did like the grind, and then maybe you got like a scepter. So then it turned into like princess runs, and then it turned into like a different variation on the dungeon. You almost had these separate ways to do dungeons, which was really cool. It was the same with like doing Baron runs in Strathholm. Like you could do the full dungeon and explore various kind of aspects of that. But once you kind of got to a certain point, kind of an unlockable to take this shortcut. And I always loved that idea that it kind of made more of a dungeon, that you kind of went through it, you explored it. It's almost like now where you kind of have to explore the entire world before you can fly. You know, it's kind of that thing where you kind of take in this full dungeon, every kind of nook and cranny, and then you get like this shortcut which forms this other variation of the dungeon as well. I did love that in Classic. I loved how it really did make dungeons it would just give this aspect of flavor to them, because we had it with like Dire Maul as well, and there was just different ways to approach dungeons, and I've always kind of missed that from Classic.
And Dire Maul was technically divided into 3 pieces,
wings,
right? But you could technically go do, because they're all connected, so you could technically go do the whole shebang if you wanted to.
Are they? I thought they were all.
Yeah, they are. They're all connected, so there is pathways around. So you can actually, if you start in the lowest one, you can work your way all the way through all 3 wings in one go if you wanted to. But it would take.
I would like to explore that. that.
So and also
I don't think they're all as one thing post Cataclysm. I think they specifically down walls to make it 3 separate instances now.
Maybe they have done that now, but back in the days, you could definitely go do all 3 of them in one.
It used to be so much better back in the day, didn't it? That's basically what we're saying here today.
This is why Tom is unsubbed.
I mean, this is essentially becoming the nostalgia cast right now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Can you still do?
Once you get going.
In Dire Maul North, can you still do the triplet run where you, instead of killing bosses, you had to avoid killing bosses?
Yes, you can still do that. You can still do that.
Yeah, I thought that was such an interesting mechanic, because people had such a hard time understanding that. Oh wait, we get more loot if we don't kill bosses. This makes no sense. People didn't understand that. Ogre suits. Oh yeah, that was amazing.
The good old days. We could just talk about this like forever now. Just live in the past, and
I can't. My past is like, remember when the Legion invaded? Wasn't that cool?
Oh, I mean, your past is essentially before Blizzard and Activision became a thing, and you've got your Activision side of things, so you've got that past thing.
No, back then it was Activision was on consoles, and they stayed there.
I had a question, and I can't remember what it was.
I don't know. What was your favorite Classic instance? You know, because I always have. I'm gonna say Scarlet Monastery as a whole, because that was my very first instance that I found a group for, and that was my very first thing, because I did a pickup group for one of the Scarlet Monastery instances. I think it was the very first one, which was halls at the time. I can't remember. Library, halls, cathedral. No, graveyard. Graveyard was the first one, because you didn't need a key for that one. And that was the way I got into a guild. My very first guild when I played WoW was a pickup group. So that will always stick with me.
Mine Shadowfang Keep the music was so intense, and it was just an awesome place to go to in your kind of early 20s. This creepy worgen infested wizard dude was there as well, and it's just yeah, it was in the heart of like Silver Pine Forest, and which is pretty creepy. That's kind of a tricky place for Alliance to get to, so they kind of missed out on that. But I did start off on Horde, but that's probably one of the highlights is going there and getting some good blues. But I suppose Alliance had Depth Mines as well, which I really love Depth Mines in its original form. That was a pretty magical, goofy place, but that was a great way to kind of kick off.
And a lot of CC needed.
For sure, for sure.
I don't know. I have so many from Manila. I have so many dungeons that I absolutely love. I think like probably 90% of the dungeons is so, in my mind, so great.
I thought yours was the Stockades, wasn't it?
Yeah, the Stockade is probably up there. Yeah, no. It didn't even have loot. It didn't even have loot back in the days. It had nothing. It was just.
Yeah, but that's where you went to farm cloth, though. That's where you went.
Yeah, that's right.
Cloth. That's where you went.
That's right. That's right. Because
people should be writing this down. If you haven't played Classic, you should be taking notes right now, because when Classic launched, this information is golden. Golden.
I think I really like Black Rock Depths, right? Is that what's it called? Black Depths, right?
Black Rock Depths is the one where you've got where again it's several paths to go, because you could go
you could get the key.
You could do the dungeon and the Colosseum. You could do the way to the bar. And then you could do the midway through the elementals and everything else.
It was like a raid. It was a 5-man raid.
I just remember that at some point we had some of the, I don't know, we were just 5 people who always did dungeons together, and we decided to do like the whole place in one go, and we actually managed to do it in fairly quickly, because I think at this point we had farmed all these instances for all the best gear that we wanted. So we basically just went through to see how long it would take to do all the whole entirety of it. But I don't know. I just really like that whole thing that you have multiple ways to do the dungeon if you want to, or shortcut to the bosses you want to, or things like that. But also I have some great memories of doing Upper Blackrock Spire as a hunter, because the last boss had, what was it, 1 or 2 ads, and then you kited the hunters. A hunter kited the boss away while you killed the 2 ads, and then he feigned when the ads were done, the hunter feigned death, and the boss ran back to them, and then you started killing him.
It was so clunky, wasn't it? It was so
clunky, but it was so much fun as well. But it also meant that you couldn't do it. Well, you could probably do it, but people wouldn't do it without a hunter.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny how that was like a legitimate tactic. I mean, if you go into a dungeon these days, if you suggested something like that, you would be kicked. You'd be like, "That is ridiculous."
You wouldn't even be able to kite the boss outside of the room he's in.
You probably wouldn't.
Dungeons.
I'll tell you
creative.
I'll tell you something else that people take for granted now, which I remember was the very big thing back in Classic, was the weather patch. It was one of the very first big things that they brought weather in. And now it's just everywhere,
I forgot that was an actual patch. That was content, Michael. That's what content used to be. Like elements. Like, pixel rain.
At least it's something that improved the world, and not like Twitter integration.
The selfie.
Hey, Twitter integration changed our lives. There's no denying that.
Marty, which one do you hate more, Cataclysm or Warlords? Which one do you hate more?
Oh, hate, like absolutely.
We don't do negatives on this show. We don't do negatives. We keep it real.
Or we can turn it. We can do it upside down. Which one do I like of those two?
I'm gonna jump in there for Marty, and I'm gonna answer it for him.
Okay.
You have to like, I think, Warlords more. Because if you take away the end game content that wasn't there for a while, Warlords is a good expansion. And Marty did not like the healing method that was introduced in the Cataclysm. And if gameplay is something that you value, then the Warlords model he probably enjoyed a lot more playing gameplay wise than the Cataclysm. And if you don't enjoy the way your class is actually working, then it doesn't matter how much content is there because you're not enjoying the process of actually doing the content. So, boom.
We don't need him anymore. We don't need him.
I got this.
Michael knows. Michael knows him better.
Last week I got to know Marty really well.
I had to step away there because I'm not needed on this show anymore.
Last week I learned everything there is to know.
Yeah, thank you, Michael.
You're welcome.
You know what though? I feel like if Blizzard hadn't kind of pulled the plug on Warlords, it wouldn't get the rap that it gets because it just kind of ran out of steam, didn't it? It had a great leveling.
It feels like they had a story they wanted to tell, which obviously started with War Crimes and Mists, and where they wanted to do Garrosh and go back to that and Rathian's story. I mean, it feels like they went, but let's go tell this story instead. Because we were told back in the day that Grommash was going to be the final boss, and then it all changed into Archimonde, the reinvasion of the demons, and then we had Legion, obviously. Now, I mean, we're sidestepping onto story here, but I mean, are we going to see a trilogy which is just going to start with BFA the way that the story started with Mists and eventually lead into one end point before it resets again, and there's no big bad that comes into the world and we focus on each other again?
That's a really good question. But I totally think you're right because there was also supposed to be like Tanan Jungle was supposed to be there from the beginning.
Yes.
And the max level zone were going to be a completely an island somewhere, and that there was supposed to be more zones that actually made it into the game, and it really feel like there was a lot of stuff that just didn't make it into the game, and I think if you analyze the story a little bit, it feels like it has a beginning, like the character arcs for the different characters have they have like a beginning and an end, but the middle part is missing, and I think that's sort of what happened. They had to, I don't know why, but they had to skip a lot of stuff that didn't actually make it into the game, and that's why it looked like it did, I think.
I mean, I enjoyed the rating in Warlords.
The rating was good.
The rating was very good. The storytelling was very good. Everything else in between just felt a little bit off pace, which is the problem, unfortunately. And I mean, I think the same could be said for Cataclysm to a point of view. The rating was pretty decent, with the exception of the actual difficulty scaling, which was one of the big bugbears of that expansion. The storytelling in each zone was pretty good, even though they were very far apart. But even Cataclysm is not different from the fact that it had changes. And I think Bellular's been doing a very good job with his retrospectives and pointing out stuff that used to be there, which did change from like beta to live, as happens. But there's a lot there that, you know, changed in both things for the better. And I mean, the biggest failure is how Cataclysm ended, but they did it so part of that story led into at least the storyline of how the monks came, not the monks, the Pandaren came to the Alliance and the Horde, which had the Alliance ship that crashed off after you left it after fighting the Spine of Deathwing.
Speaking of things that have changed and that, like, do we want to move into the question we have for today?
We could do that, Tom, since you're trying to push us in that direction.
Segues.
Yeah, segue in other words. So do you want me to play a little sounder for you?
I want you to play a little sounder.
Okay, I'll do that.
Get around, everybody. It's time to check out that noise.
So that's a long time since we heard that.
That's a good one.
We got a cool little question from Alisaunder, who continuously sends us emails. So thank you so much for all those. We actually got another email doing this show. Well, there's one thing that I want to quickly mention, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's jump into this little mail question that she sent us. Right, Tom? Do you want to take it away?
Little big mail. I'm gonna call that one. Yes. So yeah, just because we're talking about lore, I thought it was a good time to bring this one up. So Alisaunder says, Jaina trained under Aegwin, who gave up tremendous magical power to bring back Medivh from the dead. Jaina is perhaps the strongest mage on the planet, and we did have all these highly empowered artifacts. If given the choice, who would you bring back to life? Varian, Vol'jin, Tyrion, Arthas, Ysera, Tenorus, Menthil. I'm really butchering names. Tenorus, help me.
King
Tenorus.
Tyrannus.
Menethil.
It's King Tyrannus.
King Tyrannus, yeah. Ty
Tyr.
Anwina.
Anthena.
Tyr's hand.
You're a paladin. And you
Anthena,
can't
why did
pronounce
I
it.
read this email out? The Prime Naru, a legendary hero, someone that died in Cataclysm, Sylvanas, Mr. Smite. Who would you bring back? She says, in the Death Knight intro storyline, you need to kill someone who you once knew. That always touched me, so I would be selfish and bring back that gnome. It's pretty deep question.
It is. I think. I mean, if we look forward to how BFA is doing its story, I think something that would be interesting to bring back from that story point would probably be Broxagar the Red. I think if they somehow manage to bring that character back in a meaningful, lore-filled way, that would get a lot of characters actually, a lot of players interested. The same way that a lot of people came back for Wrath and stayed for Wrath because of Arthas and the Frozen Throne. Albeit it's obviously not a character that's been in the first 3 Warcraft games, it's still iconically a big character from one of the War of the Ancients books, which, you know, having Broxagar there and see the way the Horde's going could be interesting.
I also, when you said BFA, I was afraid that you would name my character that I would be bringing back, because I was thinking, what if we brought back the General Proudmoore?
Jaina's dad.
Jaina's
Jaina's
dad.
dad.
Yeah, I think that could be interesting as well to see what
going on. Sorry.
Wow.
It would be interesting, but it would also change the entire way that I think the story has to be told without saying any spoilers for that.
Oh, you have inside scoops?
Well,
Ooh.
yes and no. I'm quite sure we've all read that Warcraft comic which came out recently, have we not?
Jaina?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have.
So I'm not going to go past any spoilers that exist outside of that comic. And that comic pretty much lays down the line that...
That was lucky. Michael was just about to press the big red button to cut you off there.
No. You told me no BFA spoilers. I'm not talking about BFA outside of that comic.
I have a character that has, like, almost nothing to do with the lore. I mean, he's a character in the lore, but I have no lore reasons for bringing him back. I want Zul'jin back. Zul'jin. The reason why I want Zul'jin is because I remember playing Warcraft 2 way back in the day and watching my dad, and that was one of the first missions that you got to do, was rescuing Zul'jin. And I remember all the little orcs like smashing down the walls to free him, and he was one of the first like hero characters that I got to experience, even though back then he wasn't really a hero character, he just had a different name, but he still had the same health and everything. But I like Zul'jin. He's had the cool like bandana scarf thing over his mouth. He looked like a troll killer, like a rogue. It looked really cool. I like the character.
How about you, Tom? Who would you bring back?
I love how you guys have all been kind of serious, thought-provoking answers, and sets me up perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, why?
So, I'm gonna bring back Kel'Thas because it's been a while since we've had a merely a setback joke. You know, I feel like we need that almost every expansion. I feel like we need him to jump in and just be like merely a setback again, and just be reminded of, you know, how life can get you down, but you can just get up, dust yourself off, and try again to be an evil genius.
Tom, there's a podcast called Merely a Setback. If you want, you could just go check that out.
Life may get you down. 25 people may bust into your house and steal your loot. But don't worry, you can always make a pact with a demon lord to get resurrected and fight again, so that 5 people can come into your house and steal your loot.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Tom can wish you back.
That's maybe I've wasted my wish. Maybe I could have spent that better, but you know, this is a reactive media. I'm just saying it as it
it's out there
is.
on the internet now. You can't take it back.
I know.
You know,
Just like many things.
I would also like Uther. Bring back Uther. He always had the best lines, like in Warcraft 3 when he's just like, "The urn holds the ashes of your father, Arthas. Were you hoping to piss on them one last time?" And I just remember Arthas just like super calmly, like with a smirk, "I didn't know what it held." And Uther's like super serious. Yes, love it.
Yeah, we're getting those T-shirts printed up.
Or hashtag bring back
Right.
Uther.
Bring back Uther.
I would bring back Thrall.
Who?
We're not allowed two. Well, how come we've got 2 guesses now?
He's dead. He's
Like, I
dead.
thought we
man.
only had 1.
It's a long time since we've seen him, at least.
Did you see? You want old Thrall in the black armor? That's what you want. You don't
Yeah.
want monk Thrall
Yeah. No.
or shaman.
No, we want the. What I want to. I'll tell
We
you
want
what.
the war chief.
We want the war chief. No, I want to see. I want to see a character from the actual Thrall book, Twilight of the Aspects. I want to see Aedelus Blackmore in the Thrall armor. Who's it called? Orgrim Doomhammer's armor, as he is in Twilight of the Aspects, where he fights Thrall through time. I think that should have been one of the dungeons from Cataclysm. God damn it, Cataclysm! I keep cycling back around to you.
I was actually I was doing the same thing because I want to bring back Deathwing so we can get a proper like fight against Deathwing because I felt like that whole maybe even
Here he
just
goes again. Here he goes again.
redo that the whole instance because it was just like rehashing models. All the bosses was rehashing models. And
Whoa,
it
hold
was-
on.
it-
Best idea ever. New expansion. We can go back in time to fight Deathwing. Time travel. That's the answer always.
Boom!
Boom.
That's it.
Screw
we
alternative
succeed.
timelines.
Basically-
We want to go back in our own timeline.
So
Just-
basically, what you're asking for is the Infinite Dragonflight expansion. That's what you're asking for.
I simply want a
all the
cutscene where
all the
Thrall is
raids
getting
has
ready to
been
hit him.
rehashed.
I want to see somebody when Thrall's about to hit him, they just kick him out the way and
The-
be like, "No, it's
the-
my kill."
The ultimate rehash expansion. Like, just everything just happens in the caverns of time. It's all go back and level in how say South Shore was in Classic, but it's revamped up.
Hey, it's the HD
Choose your
remaster.
own starting area. You can choose between the whole of Azeroth.
Do you know what? That's
go
how
and
they
buy.
do WoW 2. The Infinite Dragonflight wins. Azeroth is reset, and we got to do it all again. New models, new world, new engine. That's it.
World of
You know
Warcraft,
what?
the HD
Pete-
remaster. There you
Pete,
go.
I would play that.
Nothing
like we
actually
could-
changes.
If we could go back in time and stop Deathwing before the Cataclysm, that could be the attunement to unlock classic WoW. I feel like that's
But you're only allowed to
Oh.
do that if you don't have the stood in the fire achievement from getting killed by Deathwing.
yep.
Whoops.
Hold on, you have to have it or you don't have to have
No, you can't have that achievement for
it.
dying
Okay,
to Deathwing.
okay. Yes, guess who was not around then? Woo!
It's really funny because you still got that achievement if you actually died to the madness of Deathwing encounter. If you didn't, if you managed to avoid Deathwing and you still died in that encounter, you got that achievement.
Oh,
Yep.
now I gotta check. I was like, I had no idea the first few times what I was doing on that fight, so.
I got really unhappy that I never got it until I was doing archaeology. Bastard dragon killed me like 20 times.
All right. Lastly, we got a mail from Alisaunder here doing the show, and the one last thing that I quickly want to mention is that again this year on June the 9th, so that's very soon, there will be the fourth. The running of the Trolls is back for the 4th time, and it will be held on a server that I need to find here, which is Feathermoon on the US. So you need to roll a character over there to participate, and
A troll. Roll a troll.
yeah, and you can also there's also you'll be able to donate as well, and the proceedings will go to the Trevor project. So just wanted to quickly bring that up. We'll put links in our show notes, Tom. I mean, everybody likes. I mean, I do at least. Everybody loves when there's some charity events going on among the community, right?
Oh yeah, and there's a bunch right now. There's some things in Heroes of the Storm. I don't have the links to it, but there's a bunch of things going on.
I'm doing a charity event in June. It's not Warcraft related, but I'm still doing one.
Ooh, well, throw us a link and we'll share that as well.
Woohoo!
But yeah, I think unless someone has something in the very last bit here, then
I do.
Michael is actually has something.
Oh
Yes.
man, I thought we were getting out of here.
No, I'm gonna keep you longer. Okay, you're in my time zone area, so I'm gonna keep you longer. I threw this question to Fist over at Lagging Balls, and I don't know if Pete has an input on this, but BFA has this issue with the global cooldown, and I was wondering how this might affect the PvP scene in the arena aspect. Are we suddenly going to
slow
see
it down?
Well, I get that it's going to slow it down, but I want to see if it changes up the meta in terms of character class choices or anything like that.
People are probably gonna switch to classes without saying too much. Demon Hunters are currently the most free of the global cooldown change. The only people that are really kicking up a stink about it are the people currently playing classes who aren't affected. So, for example, because I've mained Shadow Priest this expansion, a global cooldown change means nothing to me because there really is nothing off the global cooldown in that sort of case. People are probably still going to roll tanks because they are removing some defensives. Warrior's a big one. They're actually removing they've given them an extra defensive none of the other tanks have. Because they're trying to balance out all the tanks so that no one has... Everybody plays like a druid. There's no magic reduction, essentially. But they're taking off some of the defensive off the GCD. If I remember rightly, I might be wrong, and someone can probably correct me on that. But for the most part, I think it's just going to be a matter of getting used to it. It's the big change that I think a lot of people dread. And what I'm still expecting them to do is to turn around as it gets closer and goes, we're just going to revert all this because, they've started it and they've gone, it won't affect it. And when the minute they did that, they were already 2 to 3 builds down where they were putting stuff back off the GCD and still changing stuff. So they're like, well, it'll still feel better here. And they got that insight. But we're essentially on the last patch now, and it's all about tweaking numbers and everything else. So essentially, they might just turn around and go, we might lose too many people off the back of this because it's the big change. And I can't remember the last big change they did to something in WoW that annoyed somebody so much that they lost a big amount of
I do. I remember.
Is it going to be Mr. Pandaria?
Oh,
No. The last time that was about to happen was when they said that wouldn't be flying.
Yeah, that was Warlords, wasn't it?
I thought you were going to say when they changed how the way poisons work for rogues. I thought that was... No? Just me?
Yeah,
Just
I remember
you.
I was playing Super Mario, and I heard that one. It was in Nintendo Power, too.
Okay, I think... sorry, go on.
No, it's fine, you go.
No, I was about to end the show because of Tom's comment. So.
Just the cherry on top. Cherry on top.
I don't think it's going to affect people in the long term as much as everybody's saying it is. It's only the vocal minority which is saying we'll just up sticks and leave, like they've done ever. And these are people that still don't play WoW anymore anyway. They just have a voice in the community. It's not going to... People who are going to play are still going to play. I'm going to play, and I'm probably going to play a class it affects more.
Can I ask a quick question? How much have you played the beta? Do you have like a max level character and stuff?
0.
Very little? Okay. Then I will not ask you this question then.
No, ask. I probably know the answer anyway because I watch so much. Just because I don't play the beta doesn't mean I've not been invested in it.
Okay, fair enough. Oh, it's just because I have access to the beta and I've been just playing a little bit with characters. We get template characters at level 110, and then we can start leveling, and everything just feels really, 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 really slow, especially if you're a caster.
So
and
that's obviously because it's to do with the stat squish, and always the first tier of gear when you hit max level doesn't have all those secondary stats on. From what I'm seeing, when you get to like heroic and mythic tiers of gear from that first raid dungeon, it does even out a little bit, especially, and it does seem like haste is definitely going to be one of the stats that people are going to focus on just to get the speed back into the game. So it does feel a little bit faster towards that, but that's only when people have been given the raid tier level gear, and people have said it feels a bit more natural to use.
Okay. I would like to throw in the
Michael...
example of Preach Gaming did a video on YouTube where they're doing the raid testing, and they get that gear that's supposed to be like gets tuned up to that level, and while it could change, he does say that it still definitely feels so much slower than Legion, and
but a lot of that is due to the global cooldown stuff, because I believe that video you're referring to is when he's playing the Frost Mage.
Yeah, I believe.
Yeah,
so.
the Frost Mage has a lot of stuff off the GCD, like the Water Elemental Frost Nova to get the extra charges and everything else. And I think Blink's back on the global cooldown, which obviously slows down movement for a mage a lot. So it's to do with a lack of haste, and the GCD lock is a lot of why everything feels slower.
I have one other reason as well. Just as you get older, things slow down as well. So as we go into further expansions, it's just 5 expansions time, it's gonna feel like nothing's moving.
Do you know what, Tom? I'd agree with that if I haven't felt like that throughout all of Legion. That I've just been too slow in how I'm hitting buttons.
All right, I think let's end the show here.
We end it now.
Tom,
How many more bad jokes
the
have to make?
expert at transitioning to the end.
we hit the 1 hour mark anyways. Let's just get the hell out of here and close down the bar and go to bed.
Last orders! Last orders!
Oh my god, I forgot to scroll down the show notes. So we have something we quickly need to mention before we say goodbye, and that is, do we have to talk about this? I mean, it's not important anyway. I'm not even on this show. So, Tom, what is it? You tell us.
Well, me and Michael paid a visit to our good friend Frasley on Frazzlecast, episode 56. I think it's going live this week sometime. So, we crashed his show. We totally destroyed his reputation, and we gave it the old Blue Recluse spin. But it was good fun to hang out with Frasley and talk about Classic and about many other things to do with World of Warcraft. And we are a big fan of the gnome. He's the only gnome we like. Gnomes, but he's a good one.
And because I complained about not being invited to this very exclusive party, he actually did ask me when I had time to stay up during my night, because we're in different time zones and he wants to record during the day, obviously. And I said, well, that when I can do that in a weekday is when BFA hit that same week. So doing my leveling and other shenanigans when BFA hits, I will also be on the show in August. So
if you were a true friend, Marty, you would fly halfway across the world like I did to be at a reasonable time.
So, Pete, thank you so much for joining us, just here, randomly just joining our podcast, sort of. People, where can people find you if they want to check your stuff out?
So the best place to find me is on Twitter, over on at TitansCreed. I'm lurking always forevermore in the Blue Recluse Discord. If anybody wants to talk to me about stuff there, Warcraft related or Blizzard otherwise, or anything otherwise. Otherwise, I can be found doing the occasional stream over at twitch.tv/Project Phoenix Productions. I do have a YouTube channel, which is a little bit defunct, but it's got some old stuff on there. But you can find it on youtube.com/Project Phoenix. That's about it. I'm going to give a quick shout out to my charity stream on the 23rd of June. We're going to be raising money for special effect. It's not Warcraft related or Blizzard related, but we will be racing through 12 Sonic the Hedgehog games, me and a good friend of mine, Andy, who's currently living in Canada. And we're going to be raising money for special effects.
Also, Pete's a big contributor of free games in our Discord, so thank you, Pete.
Thank you.
You're a true hero.
Very good. Remember to stay around for after the show, which is in very soon, because after the show we'll have the newest Freshly report. But before we get to that, let us know your thoughts about anything we talked about on this episode, or if you have your own questions, feel free to contact us. Tom, how do people do that?
No, I let Michael do it now. He does it better than me. He did it last week. It's his job now.
You're gonna have no podcast left if you get Michael to do everything for you.
All right, well, you can email the show at thebluereclusePodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at The Blue Recluse. You can find us over on thebluerecluse.eu/Discord. Come and join over there. You can also support us on patreon.com/thebluerecluse, or you can find all that information or more, including our show notes, at thebluerecluse.eu or thebluerecluse.com, whichever one tickles your fancy.
And with those so well.
With those words and the music ending, let's just give it away for Freshly.
Welcome to episode 40 of the Frasley Report. I am Frasley, and I'm here to deliver your weekly World of Warcraft news. Today is Friday, May 25th, 2018. This week we have news regarding future BNet games and rumors of a royal wedding. Last week, we got confirmation that Call of Duty Black Ops 4 is coming exclusively to Battle.net for PC. Along with this, we just found out that Spyro, Candy Crush, Guitar Hero Live, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5, Downton Abbey, Mysteries of the Manor, SpongeBob Hero Pants, Peanuts, Snoopy's Town Tale, Cut the Rope, Triple Threat, and all 97 of Cabela's games will be coming to BNet as well. Activision wants to bring these to BNet and see how they do before bringing Duck Dynasty, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, Angry Birds, and their NASCAR franchises to BNet. They want to make sure there is enough steam for these releases to flourish before adding their entire catalog to the app. We also heard rumors that there may be a royal wedding in Stormwind. We called Stormwind representative Ed Laurel to get a comment from the king. Mr. Laurel, is it true that Anduin Wren is getting married soon?
Mr. Sparkspan, my name is Ed Yanni.
That's what I said, Laurel.
Yeah, never mind. About the rumors of a wedding, Anduin has said that any romantic interests are a personal matter. Anduin's focus is the upcoming war in the next expansion. They do not wish to take the attention off the war effort. Plus, a wedding would probably cost 45 million gold. Resources are already strained as it is, let alone funding a potential war. Plus, with the rising token prices with the coming addition of Activision's entire lineup to Battle.net, Anduin can't afford to spend gold that could go to paying the high cost of the tokens for his game time each month.
Thank you, Mr. Laurel. By the way, that's a very nice black and blue outfit you are wearing.
It is red and gold.
This has been the Frasley Report. I am Frasley Sparkspan. You can find the show at frasleyreport.com. Until next week, be awesome. I'm off to play the voice. I've been practicing my singing, and the game was just added to Battle.net.
This show is brought to you by Dragon Powered Studio. Find more at dragonpoweredstudio.com.